Starting your own practice is hard for many chiropractors. It's riddled with both struggles and successes. But here at the Chiropractic Philanthropist, we make it easy by having chiropreneurs and entrepreneurs share their struggles and lessons learned in life and business so that you don't have to make the same mistakes. And now here's your host, Dr. Ed Osborne.
How amazing would it be if you could practice because you want to, not because you have to? Learn how to improve your cash flow and increase your passive income now. Go to moneyripples.com or find their podcast, The Chris Miles Money Show, to learn more.
I've had the privilege of running a wellness-based practice from newborns to seniors, and of course I came out of chiropractic school saying I'm going to train elite athletes, and they're a dime and a dozen, and I've kind of evolved into a family practice, and basically we've grown. I've had the privilege of being shoulder to shoulder with a lot of the greats in our profession, and applied a lot of the things that they've told me to apply. I've been coached, I've been mentored, still being coached and mentored, and continuing every single day to evolve and grow myself and grow the clinic and grow our impact in our community, which is what it's all about. I think if you have that intention, then the rest takes care of itself. And so we're just right now heading into chapter number 2, and we'll talk a little more about that right now or today.
Yeah. And so Derrick, why don't you share a little bit about who you are, and then we'll jump into the discussion. Well, I'm going to leave it with a really important discussion after that.
Yeah, so I come from the business side of the world. I started off in business 35 years ago, and my focus, kind of like Clayton, I had my eyes set on focusing in the IT sector, which I had done and done very successfully for around 30 years. And about 5 years ago, I started to take a bit of a pivot. I started to note that there were many, many, many companies out there in the market that had fantastic ideas, but lacked the business acumen to actually execute and drive the revenue, drive the success that they were looking for. So I put my mind to reading countless books that I could find and educating based on thought leaders in the US and Canada, and came full circle, met Clayton along the way, and who's been my doctor for, I think, almost 5 years now. And we started to have a discussion about a collaboration, and that's what we're going to talk more about today.
Yeah, it's really interesting too, Dr. Clayton, that, when you and I started having this discussion, like, I guess, we started this discussion probably 3 or 4 months ago. Uh-huh. And this is well before everything started to really come down, like all this climate of change with the economy and all of these things, and how doctors were affected in both Canada, the States, all around the world, essentially. It's really kind of interesting, again, to me, is like this, the universe kind of, spoke to you and said, look, you and Derrick need to team up and really help doctors become more, I'm going to say, economy proof their practices and their businesses. So why don't you tell us a little bit about, ChiroMBA to start, and where that vision came, actually, where you both started to work together on this?
Yeah. So I don't know what I would have been thinking, at the time, had I known that the planet was going to go out of orbit, as I was creating this, I'd be like, oh man, is this going to be good? Is it going to be bad? But yeah, so to kind of get it all started in January, like I remember this call like it was yesterday. I had and it was late at night, those late night calls, you're like, what's this? Nobody's calling late at night to say, hey buddy, how you doing? And so my friend, colleague, chiropractor called me, and I could hear, the shakiness in his voice. And he announced to me that he had to close the doors of his clinic. And he was actually going even further than that. He was claiming bankruptcy. And at the time, like, what do you say? I was just like, buddy, what are you going to do? And, we had that discussion. But deep down, I felt that, kind of that grieving anger, frustration that, how could a guy, and in his case, how could a passionate guy, like, you love chiropractic, phenomenal adjuster, like, nobody could move a C1 like he did. You know what I mean? Like, so it wasn't about the passion. It wasn't about his adjusting skills. It wasn't about his heart not being big enough. And it just hit me like a rock that, we are coming out as chiropractors zero equipped to run a business. And that was his major fault. So the following morning, I wake up and I was like, how do I help with this situation? How do I contribute to not letting this happen again? And my wheels started spinning and I started thinking about, what could I do? And, I just basically said, Clayton, you've been in practice for 15 years. You spent over $250,000 on personal development, business development. I was sitting on a gold mine in terms of knowledge and resources and applications and procedures. And I thought, what if I rolled that into, a training program and something that I could bring forth to the profession? And I thought, no, that's not enough, because people just don't need that chiropractic aspect. They need that business aspect. Mm-hmm. So, one of the, fortunate things about having a big practice is that your Rolodex of people that you treat, usually include experts and all these people. And Derrick was one of them. And I thought, geez, Derrick's consulted with huge companies across North America. Would he be willing to give his time to help chiropractors? So we struck up a conversation, Derrick and I said, Derrick, it was just as simple as this. I said, Derrick, how can you help me help chiropractors become better business people? So I remember Derrick asking me, well, what kind of business, knowledge do chiropractors have? I said, well, not much. And Derrick was like, well, how do they make it by? And I said, that's the issue. A lot of them don't. So Derrick, agreed that, he was going to give it his all and became just as much passionate as I was. And just this morning, we're, doing our work, and we've been meeting pretty much every second day. And Clayton says, my wife looked at me the other day and says, this is the happiest I've seen you. So, I think if he was a little younger, he'd go to chiropractic school, but I'm going to keep him as a business guy. But this has been a whirlwind. Chapter 2, I don't know if I'm too young to call it my swan song, but this is building up to be my love, my next chapter.
Yeah. Yeah. So vital too. And Derrick, I mean, it's like you bring a ton of experience to the table, right?
Yeah. So, if I roll it way back, I started my first job when I was 13 years old. When I was 15, and this is at a gas station, something very simple. And I'm always a curious kid. So I'm going to the owner. I said, you're telling me, I'm, kind of jumping to the punchline. You're telling me that you're making 3 cents a gallon of gas that I pump in a car, but we can make 33 cents on a can of oil. I'm selling oil with every single car that comes in. Like I was just always, interested in making money and making more of it. And, the other piece of it, as a kid, the only piece of the newspaper that was left for me to read was the financial section. So I kind of benefit from that side as well. But as I roll through my whole career and across, working with banks in Canada, working for, with GE aircraft engines in Cincinnati, working with, Dell, some of the large IT sector players, all that I've learned, all the training I've received. I mean, every single year I'm on training at least a couple times a year and continue to reinvest. So I've taken all that knowledge back, and I said to Clayton, I said, most of the application that this framework that I have and I'm offering is usually in the $20-30 million a year companies in that range. And I said, in our conversation, I said, I think I can take that, retool it a little bit and bring it to kind of the single operator, single business owner, and have as much impact to help them grow, create that cadence, create that awareness and knowledge of the business aspects that they need to know. And there's one thing we talked about, which was kind of, I guess, I have this conversation a lot. I always tell people they have to have a good relationship with money. Money's got to be almost like a friend. It's got to be a person that you know. It doesn't have a conscience. It doesn't have an attitude. It doesn't care if you have it or not, but you better have a good relationship with it. So this whole business platform that we're talking about enables everybody to have a great relationship with money. Now it could be debt money, it could be cash money, it could be liabilities, assets, those types of things. So, but I think that's the biggest, one of the biggest things. And coming from my side, I was injured. I was a water skier, have been for forever. And I was injured when I was in my mid 30s. And that's when I first met chiropractic. So the give back for me on the other side is, I said to Clayton, I said, I need all these chiropractors to be around. All my friends that are hurting themselves in their 30s and then still want to water ski like me in my 50s, I wouldn't be able to do it. So there's a whole personal aspect to my relationship with chiropractic that's 20 years long. And I've really, I am a codependent. So honest to God, Clayton will tell you. But, from the business aspect, if you get that piece of your engine running well and you really understand and can sense and feel the change in your finances, man, it just takes the weight off your shoulders. It allows you to be that expert, that it allows you to really hone in on the skills that you want to gain. And it just kind of frees you to do the things you want.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy too, because like I remember years ago having a discussion with my first accountant at the time. And I just filed my taxes and he goes, okay, well, you owe a certain number. And I'm like, what? He's like, so you just write me a check. I'm like, I don't have that kind of money. He's like, but like clearly you need to make money, generate money to have that kind of a tax bill, which, and, right. And I remember him saying to me too, as having a serious conversation, and he was like, look, he's like, probably some of the worst business people on the planet are healthcare providers. Like, and he met dentists and doctors and like medics and chiropractors. And so this isn't just something that's only chiropractors alone, is it? I mean, this is something we see that's, and maybe even in small business.
No, I've got a great friend who's a retired dentist, and I said to him, we're kind of just hanging out chatting one day, and his first name is North. I said, North, I said, you had a successful dental practice for your whole life. Your wife was your partner. She ran all the books and the business inside and so forth. And I said, so what kind of business training did you have when you went through dental school to, he starts chuckling as I'm asking the question. And I said, what's so funny? He said, I didn't take a business course till I was over 40.
Wow.
And I went, how did you survive? He said, I don't really know. He said, people just kept coming to the door and it seemed to be okay. But that's where we are though. And that's what's happening right now is that, and this is why it's so important for the collaboration that we have happening right now, is that in the past, it would have been okay to graduate, hang your shingle on the building and say, I'm now open for business. And this is the profession I'm in. This is the service offering I have. Please come in and I'll show you around and treat you. That doesn't happen anymore. We have so many different barriers that have come up in the last 3 months since the turn of the year, and so many other challenges to help weather storms like this. This is the other piece of it, is understanding, and I say you have to have that great relationship with money. Having that relationship with money enables you to go into a 2, 3, 4 month zero income event and say, I'm going to refocus on myself and learn a skill or enhance my skills during this time, because I know when I come out of this, I want to be better.
Yeah.
And when I come out and be better, then my patients are going to see that and feel that, and they're going to have a better customer experience as well.
Yeah.
So that's the big key that we're seeing right now.
Dr. Clayton, do you know, we have you have a training, a master class, and if, I don't want to date this, but I mean, anyone who's watching this now, they can jump on the link and actually register for, I'll date it now, next Wednesday, but they'll be able to find the registration link inside of the show notes of this discussion here, but also on our webpage on the chiropracticphilanthropist.com. But one of the things I really honed in on, the title of the masterclass you're teaching, is not only how to make more money, but how to keep more money, right? So this brings me back to the discussion of the friend of yours who reached out to you. I feel like a lot of chiropractors, we have this perception, and I was one of these people, high volume, but I also had high liabilities, and just zero understanding of like where the money was going. I spent more money on probably vacations and cars and things than I didn't really have any understanding of those things. Is that your experience with a lot of doctors as well today?
Yeah. So just between you and I, like, don't tell anybody. I think if I'm honest, I think this, the period that we're in has exposed the lack of business acumen more than ever. Before, people could kind of hide because new patients were coming in, which is really what's been the chiropractic coaching, consulting.
Yeah.
It's all about, it's a marketing program, which I get. New patients are sexy and attractive. You know what I mean? Like, that's what gets people's juices flowing. But when new patients stop, I actually, not too long ago, I had a blog, and this was way before all of this started, is how long could your practice go if it didn't get more new patients for the next 2 months, 3 months, 4 months? And that's exactly what has happened. So if you didn't have the infrastructure, that business piece, you didn't sleep well these past 2 months, or this, when there's a dry up that happens, what do you do? And, I was on vacation many times, Ed, and, and all the viewers, and I'm sure that, I'll get, a raise of hands of who's experienced this before, but remembering being with my wife, and my wife is looking at me on vacation, we're sipping on a margarita thinking everything is cool, and I'm pretending everything is cool, and my wife is like, "Where are you?" I'm like, "I'm here on vacation. I'm on vacation, babe." And she doesn't buy it. And she says, "You're here physically, but you're not here mentally." And all I'm thinking on vacation is, what am I going to have to do when I get back to drive my practice again? What procedures am I going to change? And you're glued to your business even when you're away from it. So it wasn't a great time. And that was a challenge. And that's what kind of spurred, the trainings that I've done in the past. And, we tend to attract the things that, we need lessons from, right? So, we've done that. And after 15 years, I thought, okay, well, this needs to be shared.
Yeah. And I mean, let's face it. I mean, it's not just the conversation anymore about practice growth. It's about practice stability, right? It's about business stability. And by the way, I still, even after I graduated out of practice, made the transition into what I'm doing here today, marketing, I still had some of those bad habits. And it's taken me a while and a lot of mentorship working with the right people to get that straightened out. Because would you both believe, or actually maybe I'll direct this towards Derrick. Do you think it's kind of also habitual? Is it a mindset that we have that we avoid these things, or, and I'm going to say this as an entrepreneur, not just a doctor in general, but is it somewhat like we have to change their mindset, the people's mindset?
Yeah. And it's not really a laughing matter. I mean, we joke around about it, but one of my favorite sayings is problems don't get better with age. Mm-hmm. And what I mean, but and I've always had this practice with everybody that I work with. I'd always say to people, if a customer comes and says to you, "I had a fantastic customer experience," then I said, at the end of the week, I always take the team to lunch on Fridays. So at the end of the week, come to me and tell me about what happened. But if a customer calls and complains to you or has a personal interaction with you and is not pleased with the service, I said, you hunt me down, you get me out of bed, you find out where I am. If I'm on vacation, fly to the resort, do what you got to do. That customer experience has got to change, right? That is part and parcel of all of the things that I picked up through business to make sure that whenever someone has an experience with you and with your brand, then they're going to tell somebody else. It is inevitable. And the bad thing about human nature is when someone has a great experience, they typically tell 1 or 2 people. When they have a bad experience, they tell 100. So what we've built is a framework and a methodology that allows you to repeat based on cadence and repetition and collaboration with your entire team. The output is you almost become embarrassed not to follow your own rules of change. Mm-hmm. So you'll have people accountable around you, which will be involved in the learning and the change and process. And they'll go, "Hey, weren't we supposed to do this week?" So you'll keep each other accountable. And that's part of the process. It's not so much, yes, it is the habit forming. Yes, it is. But it's also that cross-pollination of accountability within your entire team that helps drive. And when you start to go through this process and you start to learn a little bit more about what I'm talking about, what'll happen is you'll be able to take, and I said this to Clayton, and we start to do it already, is all I have to do is give him one look and he'll go, oh yeah, I know what you mean. And that's what you want with your team. And you kind of, everyone's always said, I wish people could read my mind. They'll never be able to do that. However, they'll always understand what it is that's a priority, what it is that's a goal, what they're responsible for, what they're accountable for, and what they're allowed to do without asking permission that is good for that clinic. So yes, it is, but it's in a way that creates a team. Mm-hmm. And with that team will come great success. And I've seen it happen. I've been part of it. I've lived it. And I do it part of it I do every day now. I said to Clayton, I've had a cup of coffee. My wife and I have been together 15, 16 years, married 10-ish. We've had a cup of coffee every morning since we got together. No matter where I was in the world, we'd have a cup of coffee in the morning and start our day. And we called it our huddle in the morning to kick things off. We'd be on FaceTime, we'd be on, the phone or whatever. But those types of things are things that will be embedded in the daily activities of everybody, and everybody will get rewarded personally from doing that too. Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of it becomes its own little entity all by itself, and it just starts to live and grow all by itself. It's fantastic to see when it happens, because there will be a time, and it's just like there's like a click, and you look around and go, okay, it's all working. It's all working. Mm-hmm. And then
I just want to touch on this piece, Ed. Like I think when you said it's something that we run away, I saw in my clinic, if whatever I didn't have like in a row that I was owning, that I was really good at, patients showed up to teach me those lessons. So, for a while, I had a lot of student loans, and, my finances weren't really like up and going. And I attracted patients in my life that couldn't commit to care due to finances. So you tend to attract the things that you repel, because they come into your life to remind you that you need to take care of that bucket in your life, right? So that's the conscious piece. So when we can bring that business component, get your business life in a shape, then the conversions start to get better, because inadvertently it's proportionate to, you'll attract patients that are committing to stuff that you could commit to yourself, right?
Yeah. I remember what really shifted for me in terms of even when it came into, converting patients to care. And it was like a big confidence component to it. But also for me, it was like when I didn't have to necessarily stress about whether this person's, like, I wasn't attached to the outcome. It wasn't like, I gotta get this person to convert to care. Like, I need this. And when I let go of that, because I was a little bit more solid in my financing, and felt like a little bit more solid there and had more confidence, then things started to shift in that area. So I love this conversation of how, like, when we talk about like ChiroMBA and the business acumen, and confidence really does come from being able to almost like even become morally, ethically. I felt like I was a better doctor when I came from that position. I wasn't stressing over whether the bills were going to get paid. So so tell us a little bit, Dr. Clayton, about, like, you have a training coming up. We're probably going to be able to drop a replay link for that, even in the chat, or excuse me, in the bio as well. But tell us a little bit about what you're going to be teaching on that as well.
Yeah, so we're going to be teaching. There's going to be, we're going to present great content. Like, we're officially launching ChiroMBA, but other than the launch, we're presenting great information. There's going to be like 3 things that we're going to talk about. The first one basically being what Derrick learned from 35 years with large companies. What was the one thing that he took home that changed his life, and how he does business from now on, from that point. And then we're going to touch on what I consider the number one key to have more fun, growth, and freedom in your business life, but also in your personal life. And then the last one is not just a procedure for now, but it's a procedure you'll be able to use every month after month and quarter after quarter on how to reignite your practice. So it's very, very, very pertinent right now, but it's something that you can keep in your arsenal and incentivize staff and all that stuff. So we're going to cover all that information, as well as, you know, the content of what we can now call and officially launch as ChiroMBA.
Beautiful. I love when people bring like valuable resources to our followers. So, you know, anyone who's listening to this right now, if you're watching right now on Facebook, basically you can head over to thechiropracticphilanthropist.com. We're going to have a webpage dedicated to our discussion with Dr. Clayton and also Derrick. If you're on your mobile right now, you can actually open up your show notes, and we'll have that link to the masterclass right there as well. Now, before we kind of start to wrap up our discussion for today, I have a question. I'll direct it to one of you because I can't really direct it to both of you. But I'm going to direct this one. I think I'll switch this up in a second. I'm going to direct this one to Clayton. So Dr. Clayton. Okay, we're going to put you in the TCP time machine. You ready? You ready for this? You got to say you're ready. Yes. Okay.
If you're going in a time machine, you should put me in it. I'm going
to put you in another
a different time machine.
Exactly. So Dr. Clayton, I'm going to send you back to a younger version of yourself. Okay. This is right after you came out of chiropractic college. You have all the life experience, all the knowledge you have today. What would you say to that younger self? What advice?
Be you. I think that's the number one thing that has transformed my life, that I had to let go because of events that have happened in my life, that I was stuck living the life that people wanted me to live. I was stuck doing the things that people were telling me to do. And at one point I realized there was a big gap between who I really was and who I was living. And, you know, there's a saying by Dr. Bars that said, you know, life's major problems come down to one thing, is that people are in a severe deprivation state of authenticity. So the minute you're not yourself, you start to drive things in ways that people want you to drive. And at one point you're like, wow, how did I get so far from who I was? And when you're not authentic, people don't trust you. When they don't trust you, they don't convert. And now you're thinking, hey, my practice is not growing. Is it my script? And I'm like, no, that's why it's not, everybody wants that doing part, but nobody's willing to unveil the being part. And that's one thing that I would say, hey, you know, it's okay to be you. You don't have to perform for love. It's okay to be you. Just go ahead and celebrate who you are. And I think there would have been a lot less things that have happened. But again, all those were lessons, but that would be the biggest thing.
Outstanding. All right, Derrick, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. It's not.
You're gonna make me younger?
Yeah, exactly. So we're gonna make you younger. No. Here's what I want. So like 35 years of experience working with big corporations. You know, what is it like the number one resource that you would say, like, hey man, like every doctor listening today needs to go and either listen to this, read this, follow this person, whatever it is that you think would be the number one thing they need to go and do right now?
Yeah, I think if I was going to, you know, throw the dart on the wall, then the one that I believe is probably the most grounded and centered and experienced is Vern Harnish. And you'll see a lot of his work in our work. Mm-hmm. And he's been a kind of a great influencer and all across the US, so a thought leader. And he brings a lot of different people together. One of the best books he's got out is called Scaling Up. And although I've had it voted by Clayton, I've had it voted by Dr. Kelly and my wife, it's one of the driest, boringest things I've ever picked up, but I find it very exciting and exhilarating. So, but from a business side of the world, from the people side of the world, from the strategy and execution, it's a fantastic book to have at your side. And when you go through the ChiroMBA platform, it's also another great resource to have there to pick up and learn more of. And had I had that 35 years ago, you know, I'd be on my 150-foot yacht probably now and talking to you from there.
And I just want to say, like, that same framework that we're using in ChiroMBA, that business framework is the same framework used with Starbucks, 3M, Walmart. So I think we're blessed to be having the opportunity to put this in the chiropractic profession.
Yeah. Yeah. And and I mean, I'm just saying, like, it's never too late. Like, some docs might be sitting here going, you know what, it's too late. I can't, it's whatever the circumstance is from the last 8 weeks or for the last 2 years. Sometimes they'll just want to not even face their finances and face their business. But I love it. And tell me if I'm wrong, but I mean, you're from the discussion I'm pulling here too. Like, it's not just about ChiroMBA. It's not just about business. This is about also like changing how the team dynamic, building positive habits inside of your business. So this is practice, growth, practice, systems, as well as looking at the business acumen as well, right?
Totally.
Perfect.
Strategy, people, execution. It's basically, business practice, chiropractic in a box.
Love it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
love it.
and the other thing I'll add in is the way that we built this is it's not going to be a heavy burden on, it's not like some of those training courses that you've signed up and said it's going to be 20 hours a week and it turns out to be 60 hours a week in order to make a grade, right? This is very low overhead, an hour or two a week. And the way we've structured it is to allow you to take the information, consume the information, and you've got about a week to kind of hum and haw and kind of ponder it. And then we ask you to make a decision within a week's time on answers and questions that we want you to think about. Then you put that stake in the ground. It doesn't have to be a perfect decision. It's got to be a good, well thought out decision. And then you can go back and you can adjust it later. So that's the other part of it. Being a methodology makes it easier for people to adapt. Even 3-6 months down the road, they go, you know what, maybe I need to tweak that a little bit, that one piece. And that's going to be better for me because that's more the values that I'm living. Like Clayton said, live your own values. When you start to do that, then you start to control your future and you start to look inward a little bit more. And it's a lot more fun. It's not so scary, right? And when you understand the finances and you know where they're going, that fear is, if I always say to Clayton, first thing we need to do is get money off the table.
Yeah.
Then you can dream about whatever you want and go accomplish it. But we need to put a framework in place to get money off the table. Let's manage that. Let's own that. Let's make it our best friend and then move to success.
And with those valuable trainings, we obviously, provide the support, hold your hand and give you hugs and kisses and make sure that things get done if you get stuck. We unstuck you.
Yeah,
exactly.
I don't want anybody stuck.
Yeah. Well, and it's not, and I'll just kind of wrap this up. The conversation with this is it's not about the money. It's about actually that life is actually a lot less stressful. At least this is my take on it. Okay. Not for everyone. When you have some money in the bank, I'm sorry, but if you want to help people in your community, it's a lot easier if you have some money in the bank. If you want your kids to, go to great schools, like, easier, right? I mean, you want to take a nice vacation and relax, easier if you have the money in the bank. Like all of those things become a lot easier if you have a real depth of knowledge of and relationship. I like that word, relationship with your finances and your business. So I want to thank you guys for you guys. So I have to say, like, we got on calls almost every week. So that's why I say that. But I want to thank you, Dr. Clayton, Derrick, for being on the TCB podcast today. Everyone who's listening, you can head over to thechiropracticphilanthropist.com. We're going to have a webpage dedicated to our discussion today. We'll have the link so you can go ahead and register. If you're listening right now on or viewing on Facebook, you can go ahead and find the link in the comments. It'll also be in the show notes if you're on mobile. So just go ahead and open those show notes and sign up right now. I want to thank you both for giving back today. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Ed, for having us. Likewise.
So you've heard the struggles, you've heard the successes, and this episode is done. But there's still so much more to come and so much more to learn. Head on over to the chiropracticphilanthropist.com and sign up for our newsletter, where you'll receive free practice building tips and strategies, including how to market your practice with your very own podcast and so much more. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on the Chiropractic Philanthropist.